Hi, I'm Julie Cohen, and I am the winner of this year's Inclusion Award from the Romantic Novelists Association. It's here on my shelf, it's very beautiful, and it represents work done to make the publishing industry more inclusive, which is a cause that I'm passionate about. So I'm incredibly pleased to have won this award. I'm going to read a few pages to you from my latest novel, Spirited, which is a historical novel set in 1858, and it's about spirit ghost photography, and it is also a love story. In the bit I'm going to read to you, Viola, who is an amateur photographer, has been called to take a photograph of a young girl who is dying. But by the time she gets there, the young girl has died, and she takes the picture anyway, and she's developing it in this section. She didn't bother to light the red-shaded dark lantern. She worked as rapidly as she could by feel in the darkness, to remove the plate, pour over the developer, and rinse it. Then she opened the door and immediately dropped the plate into the tray of potassium cyanide fixer. Beside her, Mr. Mackey inhaled sharply. "What's that?" he asked. He pointed to the plate. In the center, Mary was lying in bed, eyes closed, hands folded over each other. It was a good likeness, sharp and clear. She looked as if she were sleeping. But Mr. Mackey was not pointing at his daughter's image. He was pointing at the shrouded figure of a child who appeared behind Mary's left shoulder. In the negative, it appeared as a black shadow against the light-colored walls. As they watched, it dissolved into misty blue and coalesced into white. "That wasn't in the room when you took the picture," he said, his voice breathless, his accent broad. "That shadow, I didn't see it. Did you see it?" Viola gazed at the plate in dismay. It wasn't a fault in the collodion or developer burn. It was an actual figure. The features of the figure were blurred, as if moving. She tried to think back to the sequence of events that had led up to taking the photograph. Had she used a partly exposed plate in the camera? An old one she hadn't cleaned properly? She'd been in such a hurry to prepare a plate, and she'd done it in darkness. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Mackey," she said, her stomach sinking. "I can't think how this happened. I'll take another photograph of your daughter." But time had passed. Perhaps Mary would look less lifelike. Perhaps the neighbor had already started washing her and preparing her for burial. There seemed little chance of gaining another picture half as good as this spoilt one. "But this is... Mr. Mackey reached for the plate but did not touch it. His hands were shaking. Viola removed the plate, putting it in a rack to dry, and turned to Mr. Mackey to apologize once again and to assure him that they could produce an acceptable image if they were given time. But she paused as soon as she saw his face. He wasn't angry or upset. His eyes were wide in wonder, his mouth turned up in a smile. He looked like someone who had seen a vision of heaven. "Mr. Mackey," she said gently. "It's her," he said. "It's my little Mary. It's her soul there in the room with us all that time."